Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hot Topics with Don Lemon. We're so glad that you can join us this morning. We have a very interesting show for you. One that we hope that you will like because, I always tell you guys, hey, I'm going to bring you the truth. Whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't matter. I'm always going to tell you the truth. So we're going to tell you the truth this morning. And the question is, did ABC cave too soon? That's what I want to know. So you heard the music. The music means our show is beginning. Good morning, everyone. I see all of you have already started before the show is even on. You're in the comments. So let me just recognize some people here, especially our folks who are members. Velma Scarborough, 100, that says 182 watching, 57 likes. Let's get those up. Those thumbs up. You're right. Good morning, Lemon Nation, says April May Simmons. Liner, Nappy Chow is here. Nappy, thank you for saying hit the like button. And Marcel's here. Everyone already knows. I always ask, where are you zooming in from? Who's zooming who this morning? I would like to know, where are you? Good morning from Chile, Saskatchewan, Canada, says Robin. Catherine W says yes. Good morning. Good morning to Charmaine TNT. Jamie is in from Los Angeles. Good morning from California, says Shia Faborg. Good morning from Harvey de Grace, Maryland, says Haber de Grace, Maryland, says Melody Edmondson. Okay, so if you guys are watching this, if you're watching the repeat, if you're watching later on, we do a live show and we like to acknowledge our live guests. So it may seem a little bit odd that I'm shouting people out. If you're watching in the middle of the day or the middle of the night, you're like, what is going on? So just so you know, you can also join us at 10 Eastern live every day as we are live here, and you can get the truth and you can start your day with knowing what is happening. So let's see where some of you folks who are members. Members are in green if you're in the chat. Marie Maniscola says, good morning from New Jersey. Beth Collier, ABC is owned by Disney, so maybe Disney thought it was worth it not to have a protracted court case, ? Beth, you may be smart. We have a guest coming up who may agree with you or may not agree with you. Good morning from Fort Wayne, Indiana, says LaFara Hudson. Okay, someone is from the Bahamas. Columbus, Ohio, Springfield, Missouri, Compton, California. We welcome all. Hey now, Don, says Lisa Lipscomb. Lisa, thank you. Hey now, right back at you. Okay, so let's get this party started. This morning, I'm having a little coffee from my Theodore's Book coffee mug, where I did a book signing, a virtual book signing, a virtual book event for them. They're down in Y'allins. Theodore's Books, Oyster Bay, Long Island. I'm sorry, Oyster Bay, Long Island. Wrong Theodore's Books in Oyster Bay, Long Island. Okay, so we had a great book event there. So did they capitulate to autocracy to protect Disney shareholders? Was the $15 million they willingly gave to Trump in the Stephanopoulos settlement, was it an exercise in ring kissing? Did they bend the knee? Also, remember, George Stephanopoulos had to give $1 million of his own money as well. In this episode, yet another instance of corporate media in crisis, is it? That's what I want to discuss today with my dear friend and a very powerful voice and attorney, legal analyst, Monique Pressley. Why am I calling you Marie? I need to drink more of this coffee. Monique Pressley is a legal analyst, a political commentator, the host of the Make It Make Sense with Monique Pressley show, airing weekdays live at noon Eastern on Instagram, rebroadcast on YouTube, of course, and also a familiar face to all the lemon heads. So thank you very much. Also joining us on different platforms. We are on YouTube. We are on TikTok. We are on Instagram. We're on Facebook as well. If you're on any of those, make sure you hit the likes, especially if you're on TikTok. Smash those hearts, okay? So thank you so much. Let's discuss. Monique, good morning. How are you feeling this morning? What's going on?
I am feeling as well as can be expected in our new normal, Don. I don't think I've actually seen you since election night.
I have been hibernating. How about you? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling like I got work to do.
Yeah, I'm feeling positive. So I'm not so concerned about what's going on. I am concerned, but I'm not sad, I should say. We've got a lot of work to do. Okay, so let's discuss this, Monique. We're going to talk. I want to play the interview, talk about the interview, and discuss what you think, your legal mind here. So this is the interview in question that led to this settlement of $15 million plus an apology of sorts from ABC and George Stephanopoulos. Here is the interview with Nancy Mace, Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Here it is.
Morning. And you've endorsed Donald Trump for president. Judges and 2 separate juries have found him liable for rape and for defaming the victim of that rape. How do you square your endorsement of Donald Trump with the testimony we just saw?
Well, I will tell you, I was raped at the age of 16. And any rape victim will tell you, I've lived for 30 years with an incredible amount of shame over being raped. I didn't come forward because of that judgment and shame that I felt. And it's a shame that you will never feel, George. And I'm not going to sit here on your show and be asked a question meant to shame me about another potential rape victim. I'm not going to do that.
It's actually not about shaming you. It's a question about...
No, you are shaming me.
You've endorsed Donald Trump for president.
Can we pause that, please? Am I reading this wrong? Was that a shame question?
No, that was a gaslighting answer.
Yeah, go on. Because I kept saying, well, why is she responding that way? Why do you, and I hate to say it as but you're a legal mind, you're a woman. Why would she answer the question that way? Because I'm like, maybe there's something as a woman that I'm not understanding. But certainly, Monique, as you know, I am also a survivor of assault. I did not see that as a leading question or a triggering question at all. And if there's anything in question about someone's actions or being found liable for SA, then as a survivor, I would want to get to the bottom of that question and answer. Am I wrong on that? And am I reading this wrong as a man?
No, I mean, I think there was a bit of bait and switch because obviously she came there to defend the former president, and she, through the entire interview, was not going to move off of that. That's her post. And perhaps she read into it as shame. You're a woman, you're a survivor yourself. How dare you defend someone who has committed these types of acts? But I don't think that that was in the question. I think that that's where she wanted the answer to go so that she could derail the interview. Okay. She was on her job.
Okay, great. Let's continue on.
Trump has been found liable for rape by a jury. Donald Trump has been found liable for defaming the victim of that rape by a jury. It's been affirmed by a judge.
It was not a criminal court case, number one. Number two, I live with shame. And you're asking me a question about my political choices, trying to shame me as a rape victim, and I find it disgusting. And quite frankly, E. Jean Carroll's comments when she did get the judgment, joking about what she was going to buy, it makes it harder for women to come forward when they make a mockery out of rape, when they joke about it. It's not
okay. Again, not getting into the substance. I don't want to get into the substance now about whether they should have caved or not. But do you think E. Jean Carroll winning something in court and saying, I think she said that she was going to do something for women, I forget what it was. Do you think that that gives women pause or hesitancy about coming forward because E. Jean Carroll had just won this huge verdict and she was of a celebratory nature about finally getting justice?
I can't speak for what is going to cause a woman in that position to come forward or not. There are so many other factors that are at play in that very difficult decision for each individual woman. But again, I think that the Congress member was just on her job for the day, which was bait and switch, throw oil into the milk and hope that something stuck. And it did.
Yeah. Oh, it did, but not what she thought would stick, right? Something else stuck. Okay, let's continue.
For women to come forward when they
it makes it harder when other women joke about it, and she's joked about it. I find it offensive, and I also find it offensive that you're trying to shame me with this question.
I'm not trying to shame you
at
all. In fact,
I have dealt with this for 30 years. You know how hard it was to tell my story 5 years ago when they were doing a fetal heartbeat bill and there were no exceptions for rape, incest, or rape or incest in there. I had to tell my story because no other woman was coming forward. No rape victims were represented. And you're trying to shame me this morning.
I'm just asking.
And I find it offensive, and this is why women won't come forward.
Women won't come forward because they're defamed by those who perpetrate rape. Donald Trump
They are judged and they're shamed. You're trying to shame me this morning. I think it's disgusting.
I'm not shaming you at all.
I told my story. It took me 25 years to tell my story. I was judged for it. I still get judged for it today.
I'm asking you a very simple thing of doing.
He defended himself over that and denies that it ever happened, but he was not found guilty in a criminal court of law. It was a civil judgment.
So is that the distinction you're making? A civil judgment is okay, but a criminal judgment is not?
This is different, and they didn't even input all of the evidence into the civil case either, because some of the information she provided wasn't even accurate or correct. But to sit here and ask me as a rape victim to try to shame me for my political choices is wrong, and I think it's offensive. I mean,
you can repeat that again and again and again.
I'm going to, because I find it deeply offensive.
You don't find it offensive that Donald Trump has been found liable for rape?
I find it offensive as a rape victim that you're trying to shame me for my political choices. And I've said again repeatedly, E. Jean Carroll has made a mockery out of rape by joking about it. I don't find that funny. Rape is not funny.
Can you pause,
rape
please?
is serious.
You've made a perfect.
Can you pause, please? Is she blaming the victim there?
She doesn't acknowledge that there's a victim.
Go ahead.
And she makes a distinction between criminal and civil courts.
What do you think of that?
Well, there is a distinction between civil and criminal courts, for sure. But that doesn't mean that the findings of the jury were inaccurate.
It's just different courts. But I keep thinking, I don't understand, and it's infuriating to me, especially since this has happened, and we'll go over the legal aspect of it, and we may agree or disagree, however you feel about it. But I just find it, especially as, again, something that I don't, talk about lightly, is that as a survivor, that she is here doing this song and dance, this political song and dance that really has nothing to do with the question, and would be very helpful for her to say, as a survivor of this, I would want anyone who is guilty of it or who has partaken in anything like this to be brought to justice. Now, in this particular case, if she feels that way, I would have said, in this particular case, I have some reservations because, but her entire line of answering is that this is somehow a shaming question and that Donald Trump is completely innocent after being found liable in a court of law. Let's continue.
Rape is serious.
It is serious.
Not funny, and it shouldn't be made a mockery of. But if you want to defend a woman who made a mockery out of rape, then you go ahead and do that. I'm not going to do that.
Well, actually, what you're doing is defending a man who's been found liable for rape. I don't understand how you can do that.
Not in a criminal court of law. This was a civil judgment over sexual abuse, not rape, by the way, and she made a mockery out of it.
Can we pull up the Washington Post headline right there? In fact, it has been shown to be rape. The judge affirmed that it was, in fact, rape. Donald Trump was found to have committed rape. That's just a fact.
That is a civil judgment, not a criminal court. They're two very different things, and you know better.
Well, I just showed you the facts.
You know better.
You show that you're very comfortable with what Donald Trump has done.
And what you've done is offensive to women who've been raped. What you've done this morning is offensive.
We'll let the viewers decide about that.
South Carolinians every single day, and they support Donald Trump.
Okay,
he's going to.
Thank you. There we go. Okay, so thank you. So Monique, so here we have that. Okay, that is from Nancy Mace. That's the interview in question. Now, do you know Ben Meiselas over at the Midas Touch Network, who is an attorney? After this announcement came out of the $15 million settlement and the apology, Ben Meiselas took to the streamways, can we call it that, to the digital airwaves, and said this. And I want to see if you agree with his assessment as an attorney. Here it is.
We're getting into why I believe this settlement agreement between ABC, George Stephanopoulos, and Donald Trump is so egregious. Let me remind you what Judge Lewis Kaplan, who presided over the E. Jean Carroll case, said in two separate orders. Let me read you order number one, just a small portion of it. Federal Judge Lewis Kaplan, who presided over both jury verdicts, which unanimously found in favor of E. Jean Carroll, right? This is what Judge Kaplan said. The jury did not award Miss Carroll more than $2 million in damages for groping her breast through her clothing. Wrongful as that might have been, there was no evidence at all of such behavior. Instead, the proof convincingly establishes, and the jury implicitly found, that Mr. Trump deliberately and forcibly penetrated Miss Carroll's vagina with his fingers, causing immediate pain and long-lasting emotional and psychological harm. Mr. Trump's argument therefore ignores the bulk of evidence at trial, misinterprets the jury's verdict, and mistakenly focuses on the New York penal law definition of, quote, rape, to the exclusion of the meaning of that word as it is often used in everyday life, and of the evidence of what actually occurred between Miss Carroll and Mr. Trump. That's order number one. Order number two, in a separate order, federal Judge Lewis Kaplan wrote as such. As the court explained in its recent decision denying Mr. Trump's motion for a new trial on damages and other relief in Carroll 2, based on all the evidence at trial and the jury's verdict as a whole, the jury's finding that Mr. Trump, quote, sexually abused Miss Carroll implicitly determined that he forcibly penetrated her digitally. In other words, that Mr. Trump in fact did, quote, rape Miss Carroll, as the term commonly is used and understood in context outside of the New York penal law. Folks, I'm not giving you the Ben Meiselas narrative of what happened. I am just reading for you the order by the court. I'm reading a judicial finding that was made by a well-respected federal judge who presided over both E. Jean Carroll case. I want to give you that as context. So with that as context, let me give you the analysis now of the underlying settlement. Just to do that, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let me show you.
Monique, I just want, this is going on a little bit long, but this is a legal analysis that I want the viewers and Monique to hear before we assess this and get another attorney or another legal mind decision or thinking about why, or assessment about, did they cave too soon? Should they have gone to court? Did they make the right decision? Let's continue on now. Ben Meiselas over at the Midas Touch Network, who is an attorney. Go.
When the news broke, when it happened right away, here was the breaking news bulletin I put out. Remember what I just said, though, as you're listening to this, so you remember what is it that the federal judge in the underlying case said. And let me just put it in this perspective for you as well. E. Jean Carroll has not seen a single penny as a sexual assault victim. $0 from the case thus far. Donald Trump posted a bond that an insurance company helped him post. She hasn't gotten a single penny yet. Donald Trump gets $15 million through his presidential library and his attorney's fees covered from Disney/ABC and George Stephanopoulos for how they reported on what occurred between Donald Trump and E. Jean Carroll. So Trump gets that money? Seriously? Watch the full context of what I say, though, in this next segment. Let's watch it. This is utterly outrageous what ABC just did. One by one, we've seen corporate media fold, kiss the ring, and not just obey in advance, but go through humiliation ritual after humiliation ritual. Here is what happened. ABC has announced that it will be paying $15 million to a charitable foundation controlled and or run by Donald Trump for Trump's future presidential library as part of a settlement when Donald Trump, in my opinion, filed what might have been the single most frivolous lawsuit against ABC and George Stephanopoulos. I am waiting to hear what George Stephanopoulos has to say, but shame on you, Stephanopoulos. Shame on you, ABC, and anybody who works at ABC. Utterly atrocious and despicable. Let me remind you all what this lawsuit was and how despicable it is and was that ABC is doing.
So
and
here
how
we go.
It is more.
We got the gist of it. We got it. We know what the interview was about. Okay. I'm doing the big setup here for Miss Monique Pressley. Monique, okay, now I want to go to, this is MSNBC. This is Harry Littman on the effect of this lawsuit. Watch.
It seems to me that with that language, with that quotation, ABC actually had a very strong case, but chose to settle. A settlement is not an admission of liability. It is instead an agreement to end the matter in the best interest of both parties. But they are agreeing to issue this statement of regret, which is not exactly an apology. But I do worry about the effect this could have on others and the chilling effect it might have on people who otherwise would be critical of Donald Trump.
To prove defamation, you have to prove that Stephanopoulos said something false and knew it was false. As Barb says, it's not even clear this was false. One juror was hesitant about using rape, but rape or sexual assault equally well satisfied what they were having to find. And the judge did affirm this is what they were found. So, yes, I think they had a strong case. I'll say this with no basis whatsoever, but given the strength of the law and the fact that they were going to be deposing Trump in just a few days, and that's always something you want to do if you're on the other side of a lawsuit from him. He can be so erratic and inculpatory. I got to think that the ABC boardroom was involved in this decision somehow. And my big worry, to put a finer point on what Barb is saying, is it is somehow caught up in the fact that he's going to be president soon.
Okay, that was Harry Letman. Now, this is Simone Sanders on MSNBC.
U.S. is in a difficult position. Everyone understands that. That doesn't change the obligation to be straightforward and objective when it comes to Donald Trump.
I would just say, I mean, this feels like it has a real chilling effect. I mean, shout out to the standards department. Okay, standards is always making sure that we are keeping the bar high and substantive and accurate. But what George Stephanopoulos said in that interview, I mean, it seems to hold up with what the judge said after the fact. And now his news organization and himself, George Stephanopoulos himself, is paying $1 million of his own money to the lawyers, and ABC $15 million. It's insane.
Okay. And now I want to go to George Conway, who is also an attorney and also a legal mind and a political mind. George Conway saying here, the ABC News settlement makes zero sense from a legal standpoint. It assumes there is a moral or reputational difference between forcibly penetrating a woman's vagina with fingers and doing so with a penis. It also assumes that Trump has a reputation that could suffer damage. The reason I say that is because obviously he did not suffer damages for this. He is now president of the United States. The voters haven't gone to the polls knowing this information, having seen this interview, having made up their minds about who they wanted at the voting booth, quite frankly, as Nancy Mace pointed out in that interview. So now that we have had the big setup, I just want to show you, again, this is a Huffington Post. What the Huffington Post says about the settlement says that deeply concerning. Ex-prosecutor calls ABC's Trump settlement far from normal. And then here's the ABC apology as written in the court filing, that what they must do here and what they are doing, $15 million to a charitable organization, Trump Library, etc. George Stephanopoulos also having to give somewhat of a correction. I'm not sure of an apology, but an acknowledgement that, you know, what they say he said was wrong. Okay, Monique Pressley, you now have the floor, having heard all of that and taking copious notes.
I did.
What say you?
I did. I haven't heard the legal analysis yet. You know, I heard a lot of people talking about things that they find problematic and things that they find chilling and calling things despicable and atrocious and saying, where's reputational harm? But that's a far cry, Don. And maybe they did that part at some other point. But I think if you start from the top and just do what I feel bound to as former criminal defense attorney and now legal analyst, it's look at the facts, look at what was said, and decide whether what was said was accurate or not.
And Monique, just to say, you are no fan of Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah. Let's 100%. Let's go with not
Remind
a fan.
our audience of that. Yeah. Go on.
But. And that's, again, that's the obligation, right? As an analyst, you're calling balls and strikes. So when George Stephanopoulos said, and I'm just going to put Nancy Mace to the side because everything she said was useless. She's not a part of the lawsuit, nor was she a part of that interview. She did something that is, you know, in certain people's bag of tricks, turn into the victim themselves, make it all about them, have the narcissism on full display. What about me? What about me? You're trying to shame me. Nobody was even talking about her. So let's put her off to the side. George Stephanopoulos said, first question, that Donald Trump was liable for rape and for defaming the victim of that rape. That's not accurate. Second question, has been found liable for rape and for defamation for that rape. Not accurate. Third statement, women are chilled by being defamed by those who perpetrate rape. Maybe that's true, but that's not accurate as it relates to this particular civil defendant, the now soon to be president again. Fourth, you don't find it offensive that Donald Trump was found liable for rape. Not accurate. Then he says, you're defending a man who was found to have committed rape. Not accurate. So if ABC is looking at a lawsuit and they've got to say, every time that he said that Donald Trump was found liable for rape, he, in front of millions of people, misstated the facts, misstated the law, misstated the jury's finding, then they may have just decided on the basis of the sloppiness of it and then the later refusal to correct it that they needed to get rid of this case.
Mm-hmm. Let's put some of the comments up. Amanaday says, you are defending ABC, huh?
I'm not defending ABC. It's not really about defending ABC. ABC made a corporate decision. Okay, and let's re-enter the facts. In this case, the jury found that Donald Trump defamed E. Jean Carroll, and the defamation was in relation to his actions, which they found was the forcible digital penetration of her vagina. That is what they found happened. And under the law in New York, when they found that, that means sexual abuse. There was a different law at that time for rape, and it required the penetration to be intercourse with a penis and a vagina. And that was not the allegation, nor was that their finding. Now, since that time, the governor has changed, expanded the law in New York such that digital penetration is considered rape. But that was not the finding at the time, and it was clear in the orders, it was clear in the jury's verdict, it was clear in what the judge said afterward. So pointing to a judge writing an article and explaining things and writing follow-up orders and explaining that it was rape as is used in everyday life is not dispositive of anything.
Yeah.
Yes, it was rape as we use the word in everyday life, because in everyday life, digital penetration is rape. You know what else? Digital penetration is rape in many states in the United States, but not all of them. So you got to kind of take the Trump out of it in order to figure out whether we want, as people in media, especially if you are a journalist with millions of people watching, do we want any defendant to be in the position where a host can decide to use everyday language and supplant it with a jury finding or not?
Okay.
That's the question.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Okay. So listen, folks, some folks may be confused in the chat because I'm watching when I'm looking down on the screen, just so you guys know, I'm looking at the chats that's running across this, but I'm paying attention to Monique. So I'm not actually looking up in the camera. So forgive me for that, but I must do it because this show is about you. We like to get your feedback. Also, some people are confused about digital. Monique and I remember before we had a digital age where it talked about what is out in the, what you put on the computer. We're talking about fingers. These are called digits. When we say digital, this is what we're talking about. And when people, because some folks are confused, fingers are called digits, guys. And so when we say digital penetration, you get it. Okay.
I apologize for that.
Well, you don't have to apologize, but I'm surprised that's like some people who can't write cursive. Some people don't know what digits are. Or when we used to say,
forcible. And forcible can mean
yeah,
forcible by strength, or forcible can mean absent consent.
absolutely correct.
And Don knows I probably have more experience than most with these types of cases.
Yes, you do. And also, Monique, when we have to remember when people used to say, because you're old enough, when Monique, when you and I went out and someone would say, "Can I have those digits?" What did that mean? They wanted your phone number. Give me those digits.
Not your fingers.
Right. Well, you'd have to write the phone number down, meaning digits. Digits meant numbers as well. So there are lots of different meanings for words. So just so you guys know, that is what we're talking about. Okay. So there are folks who still, and I want to ask you about this. So, so someone says, T Mama says, I was not aware that fingers are digits. Thank you for clearing that up. Wow. It's so interesting to me. Okay. So Monique, I understand the understand of all of that. And there are folks who are actually saying, I get it now. She is not making excuses or defending ABC. She's doing what what a smart person with a legal mind, an attorney's mind, would know about this as a former criminal attorney, right? Is that correct? You weren't a prosecutor. You were a former criminal.
I was a criminal defense attorney, and then obviously a civil defense attorney in cases like these. So my knowledge is, well, listen, people who are watching who maybe don't know, I was former counsel for Bill Cosby and legal spokesperson during the time when he was accused of digital penetration, which is with a finger of a person in the state of Philadelphia, the state of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. And that was rape in that state. Mm-hmm. So state to state, there is a difference. And people who are asking, so they're saying if it was rape in any state, then ABC is in the clear. That's also not correct. The host was saying found liable for rape, and that's just not true. And so I think it is important, whether it is a very famous billionaire, civil defendant or criminal defendant, or whether it is Joe on the street who's from a poor part of town and has a false accusation against him due to mistaken identity. It's necessary that we who are in the public use our words and they be as accurate as possible. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to make mistakes, but it means when we make mistakes, we have to quickly acknowledge and correct our words.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so listen, had George Stephanopoulos, in your opinion, said that he was found, says, listen, when he has been found guilty of sexual assault or whatever, or not guilty, or liable for sexual assault, which a judge says is akin to rape, would that have been accurate? Would he be in this trouble?
There would be he'd be quoting other people. There's no issue there at all.
Do that, but he should have done that initially. You don't think that he did it soon enough? Because he did bring up the Washington Post report, the Guardian report, the Independent report, the other reports that said the same thing that he said, and he said, the judge clarified, blah, blah, blah. Even though he brought it up and corrected it later, that has no bearing on this case?
That wasn't a correction. The fact that the judge says what the jury found is rape as, and the quote was, as it is used in everyday life, that's not a legal standard. Mm-hmm. That's not what they found. They could have found rape and did not. They could have found, as the judge said in the order, forcible touching of breasts, and did not. They made very specific findings at the time, and they found that there was forcible penetration using a finger, which is in the law is called digital penetration, but that did not mean rape in New York at that time. So every time he said has been found liable for rape and has been found liable for defamation for that rape, he needed to say has been found liable for sexual abuse, has been found liable for defamation for that sexual abuse, because that's exactly what happened. And then if he wanted to say, and that sexual abuse is what we commonly call rape, is what is known as in common speak rape, or what is referred to in other states as rape, maybe it wouldn't have been as much of a problem. But I say, Don, I'm kind of like, why though? Sexual abuse is horrible. Sexual assault is wrong. The jury's finding was strong as it was, and these actions are hideous as they are. So when we colloquialize about things that have legal significance, that's where we get in trouble. And I don't think that we should do that.
August de Winter says the interview got away from him and he did not course correct it, is paying for it now. I understand as a journalist, you must be precise with your words, and sometimes you mean things and it doesn't come out right. But shouldn't journalists, journalistic organizations be given some sort of leeway to correct what they had to say? I felt that he tried to correct, of course, correct. I'm not sure, at least point the evidence. If they had come back and said on air, George got it wrong, or what George meant to say was this, we apologize for the error, would that have made a difference?
I think that if they had taken advantage of the opportunity given them by the plaintiff's lawyers to make an immediate correction, then we would be in a different posture. And I think that the correction, maybe George wouldn't have wanted to apologize because he's like, he's a rapist, he's a rapist, he's a rapist. And I'm like, you know, you can feel the way you feel, but feeling the way you feel about a particular defendant and their cumulative actions doesn't have anything to do with what was actually said. So I think that if they had taken advantage of that opportunity, corrected, because here's the thing, Don, it's not just on George and his words then, they refused to correct the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they refused to correct their Chiron. I hope I'm saying that word right. Chiron, their lower third. And so,
which is the writing on the screen. But let me say this. True Tech, I think, brings up a very good point in the comments. Semantics. And again, and I say this as someone who is a survivor, okay? It's semantics. Unmarked grave victims didn't go to a better place because of semantics. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you get my sentiment here? And if it means that in every other, or just about every jurisdiction in the country except for New York, then where's the lie? Where's the lie?
The lie is when you said found liable for.
Okay.
I mean, it's really, it's
that
very
simple.
Okay,
it's
not a question of the wrong being done. Like, this woman is a victim of rape by not just world standards now, but by New York standards, because the law has changed. But even in the fact that the governor had to change and expand the law, that should tell the whole story, because you don't have to go back and correct what is already accurate.
Okay.
And what is already inclusive. But the George Conway comment, I think, was important. You know, I have a great deal of respect for George for his commentary.
Let me put George's comment back up as Monique talks about it. Go ahead. Sorry, Monique.
He said that what ABC did doesn't make monetary sense. I perhaps agree. This settlement makes 0 sense from a legal standpoint. It assumes there is a moral or reputational difference between forcibly penetrating a woman's vagina with fingers and doing so with a penis. Okay, the reason why he says it assumes that is because in a damages case, what the plaintiff is saying is, you called me a rapist and I'm a sexual abuser, basically. And you are injuring me with the label rape, because rape at that point meant using something other than a finger. You would have to use a penis for it to be so. It also assumes that Trump has a reputation that could suffer damage. Again, another good and accurate point. You and I were texting back and forth. Would the damages have been $15 million?
That was my question. If they had gone on, right? If they had, as we said, did they cave too soon? Because I think that the reputational damage that it has caused is far more than $15 million. But please, you have the floor.
I think that if they were not wrong, if there was a close call on the first element of establishing whether the statements that were made by the host were factually correct, if there was any wiggle room there, then it wouldn't have made sense to settle. And I don't call it caving. It wouldn't have made sense to end what was going to be a long and acrimonious and expensive legal battle. It would have made more sense to try if the first element, where I'm showing you the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times he said something that was just factually inaccurate. And then they would have had to figure out, sure, he said something wrong, but did he intend it? Because you have to prove malintent with a public figure, not just that it was wrong, but that the host knew that it was wrong, and that ABC knew it was wrong when they continued to print it, and that they did so with malintent to harm the plaintiff. Then they'd have to show that he had, as George said, a reputation that could be harmed. It's obvious it did not harm his reputation, right? Because he continued to go forward and ascend once again to the highest office in the land, even after this happened. So sure, they would have had arguments on damages, but they still would have maybe sometime next year been found liable 15, 20, $25 million later on legal fees. They would have been found liable for defaming by that time would be sitting president of the United States. And so they have a responsibility to mitigate their own damages by not spending money unnecessarily and frivolously that, in my opinion, would have been spent no matter what. And to stand on what principle? Because at the beginning of the day, it was wrong.
Okay, so you think if they had gotten to a courtroom or gone to a jury would have sided with the former and president-elect or sitting president at the time, just over the words?
If they end up with a jury form, it's going to have, like, when you get these jury forms, it's going to ask you multiple questions, and it's going to sound kind of like what I just did. So on the first question is going to be a finding of fact, whether Donald Trump was found liable for rape and for defamation for rape, whether the statements by the host were accurate. They're going to check, no, he was not. So that's how they're going to have to answer that one. Then the second one is going to be, did the host have the right information? Was the host and was ABC aware of the accuracy of the finding? And I think that the plaintiffs are going to put into evidence that when this verdict came out last March, ABC and George Stephanopoulos repeatedly said that Donald Trump was found liable for sexual abuse. They weren't saying rape. So at some point, they knew the difference. They knew what to say. They knew what to print. So box 2, yes, they know the difference. 3, was there malintent? That's where everything starts going south. I don't know. This interview is very strident. So it's not going to do them any favors. And then them refusing to correct it afterward, that's not doing them any favors, because they had a time to like mitigate whatever damage there is to Donald Trump's reputation. And then finally, the jury's going to have to assess damages. And that's when it's like $3, I mean, no damages to be found, right? Because his reputation was not harmed by any of what happened. So they will have spent a whole bunch of money to not be fully exonerated. And that's what you want. You want to come out of it, as Tina Turner would say, just my name.
Okay, so a couple of things that I want to ask you. So if you were ABC or George Stephanopoulos' attorney, you would say settle. You would advise.
I'm going off of what I can see.
Right. You don't know what the other evidence is. You don't know what the evidence is. You're not
I don't know I don't know what was going to come out in the emails. I don't know if there were emails going.
That was my point. So you said intent. So there would be a discovery process, because Donald Trump was about to sit for discovery just before this headline came out. The news came out about them settling. The headline was, and it was just a few hours before, Donald Trump will sit for a deposition. But that would mean that George Stephanopoulos would also be part of discovery as well. And perhaps his communications would be brought up, and possibly, I don't know if they'd be made public, but they would be seen or made available to the defense or the prosecution.
And not just him, the executives and what they thought they should be doing about it, what the parent company was concerned about. And when you've got a party on the other side like DJT, it's more harmful for him to know than it is for the public to know.
Okay.
You don't know what kind of extortion and drama you're setting your company up for when he has I mean, he's been in whole cases where the government had to file motions with the court to prevent him from seeing the evidence for the sake of national security.
Okay. So let's put your one more thing. I thought it was a very good question, then we'll go on, because someone says because of how New York, it's New York State, right, defines rape, correct? What if the situation involved, and you see the comment up on your screen, Monique, what if the situation involved 2 men in New York? You mentioned it was only RP if it is, or the R word, if it was peen in JJ. Would the semantics still be the same if we're talking about semantics and words?
Well, I mean, it is
that's a good question, right?
It's not semantics, but what I want to say is that now the law encompasses same-sex forcible penetration, whether with an object, with a finger, or with a penis. And before, the law was quite narrow. So a man could be sexually abused, but it would not be rape. And so I believe that the law now is more progressive.
Okay. So if you're watching, I think this is a very important conversation. Make sure you hit the likes, make sure you hit the hearts or whatever, and let us know what you're thinking. And we want your comments. So please, if you are a subscriber and you're watching us on YouTube, you can. We will answer your questions, and you see we're putting them up now. So here's my question. Can you now let's put your media zeitgeist analyst hat on to talk about what's really going on here, why people are really concerned. They believe, as has been written and reported, that this was a corporate decision that came from the top. ABC is owned by Disney, and no one wants, we don't want to mess up our Disney reputation. We don't want our business in Washington, D.C. as a media company to be disturbed. What if we needed some sort of merger and acquisition? What if we needed something consolidation? We don't want to get in trouble fighting with the new FCC chair before he's even in office, or who knows if he's going to get the job, but probably will. He wrote the media portion of Project 2025, the person who's being nominated for FCC chair. So there's a whole lot of other things going on where you understand why people are like, this is some corporate media BS, and I just can't trust corporate media anymore. And that's why I brought up the whole reputational thing. It may have cost them more in a reputation than, as my mentor always says to me, Don, you have to weigh, some people know the cost of everything, $15 million, and the value of nothing, which he believes is what's happening with media companies now. They know the cost of everything, but they don't know the value of anything. And sometimes that value of something is worth more than the actual cost, where you can get rid of something or that you can get it out of the way. Do you understand where I'm going here?
I do, but one would argue that maybe ABC didn't have that much reputation to lose either, as many mainstream media organizations aren't well thought of by the public. Right now, they're not believed. They're thought to be part of the misinformation and disinformation campaigns that led us to our current posture with this particular election. So there's plenty of, a pox on all of our houses, basically. But yes, corporations make decisions based on corporate interests, and that's, by the way, their job. Like, boards of directors answer to stockholders and answer to their own reputational interests, and they have to decide whether they're going to be on a mission, a costly mission, when there's not a clear winner. That's their job to make that decision. Do we as people in media, well, thank God we're on the independent side of media now, Don, so we don't have to worry about whether the company is going to stick up for us or whether we're going to get fired or whatever the case may be. And obviously, I have feelings about mainstream organizations not sticking up for their hosts when their hosts are the ones that are in the hot seat.
That's what I have to say. How do the folks there feel that, look, if I say something, if I get something wrong or I misspeak or there's a semantics issue, is the company, and I'm hearing that from journalists, is a corporation going to stand up for me, or am I going to be cast out? I think we know the answer to that, but this is, Amanity brings up a very good point in the chat. I get now why they settle, but this settlement may have cost them, their company, greatly with the mistrust of their consumers. So this was a lose-lose situation. But do you understand sort of the chilling effect that this has for everyday journalists in the business?
I don't think that it should. I hope that what I've laid out will be, comms is my life. I crisis manage and risk manage for a living. And I think
will be harder for them to be more accurate and more precise.
Our words matter.
Yeah.
And not just about this man. It's just our words matter. Make sure that what you're saying is backed up by fact, that you can point to. It used to be we had to have multiple sources to back up everything that we're saying. That's true. And I am not a journalist. I'm a lawyer by trade, and I do media. I'm an analyst, a host. But I think that the lesson also is, when we get it wrong, we immediately fix that, right? Because there's gonna be mistakes, and this interview is also kind of an example of the way when our emotions start flying, and I particularly when the host said, "You're defending a man who was found to have committed rape." They were in the back and forth of it. And every time he said it, it got a little bit worse because the Congresswoman was so out of pocket. But out of pocket is what she does. So when we're in those types of situations, we're the only ones really who can lose by digging our heels in. And then afterward, we've really got to go to it and say, wow, okay, no, where it said rape, substitute sexual abuse, make the correction, make the apology, live to fight another day.
An example of what I'm talking about, the chilling effect on this, that because it's a number of different things are involved, okay? And this is being reported by my former colleague and friend, Oliver Dorsey. LA Times opinion staffers notified the executive editor that Soon Xiang, which is who owns the LA Times, has banned criticism of Donald Trump unless it's presented side by side with another opinion piece representing the opposing view. Again, that is via Oliver Dorsey, who has his own now, he left corporate media, now has his own site over at Status. That is a concern about corporate media and the influence, and goes beyond whether the accuracy of George Stephanopoulos and ABC, but that's a concern from the consumer, and that false equivalency. Just because, as I always say, and I believe this, some things are objectively bad and some things are objectively good. There's no two ways about it. It's good and it's bad. I always say many sides of the story, but some things are objectively bad. And just because you are critical of something that Donald Trump does, it does not necessarily mean that you must be critical of something that Joe Biden does, or of something that Kamala Harris does. And it doesn't mean that there is another side of something that is bad. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so now you have the LA Times doing this, and then Donald Trump, which I'll talk to you about now, going on and suing or threatening to sue Ann Selzer, the pollster. But what do you make of what I said?
People ought to be able to look at this show today and go off and say Don Lemon was wearing a black shirt without somebody saying, but you didn't say Monique was wearing a blue shirt. Mm-hmm. You should not always have to represent everything as long as you are accurate in what you say. And make no mistake about it, Don, we are entering like an autocratic wannabe regime phase in our country. And the press, the media is considered to be an enemy by our soon to be president, and is on a list I mean, if there's a list, I'm sure you're on it. I'm sure I'm on it. The things that we have said have landed us on the other side of this so-called administration that's coming up. These things are all real. They are all concerning. People are right to be concerned, to be afraid, to feel chilled by the way that corporations and even some hosts are going and kissing rings. All of that is of concern. I just think we can't glom it all together. That I think that's when we have to get even more concise, because we may be having to defend ourselves. You know, we may have to be the ones having our own separate counsel on standby, and we may have to be fact checking our own scripts and making sure we've got our own reservoir of knowledge. And because sometimes, you know, in the host seat, you can see something on the screen and be like, actually, no. and you have to, in real time or soon thereafter, be willing to do that. But it doesn't take away from any of the other stuff about the concerns about this man and his view of democracy and his view of the fourth estate. All of that is absolutely true, and people should be concerned.
This is from Oliver Darcy's status, and I'm going to try to get Oliver on. It says, Patrick Soon-Shiong, the owner of the Los Angeles Times, has dismayed staffers as he curtails critical coverage of Donald Trump. Okay. And then I'm going to go on and read. It's a little bit long, but I think it's important, Monique, and I love your analysis here. Patrick Soon-Shiong's meddling at Los Angeles Times, again, this is according to status, has grown more pervasive than previously realized. The billionaire newspaper owner, who is desperately trying to appeal to the MAGA movement as Donald Trump prepares to take power, has taken a number of previously unreported steps to curtail the publication of opinion pieces critical of the president-elect. That's according to a memo that I obtained, which was sent in the last few days to the executive editor, Terry Tang, and signed by several members of the newspaper's opinion section. The staffer said that they were notifying Tang, who oversees both the newsroom and opinion section, of Soon-Shiong's alarming actions because the newspaper's ethics policy requires employees to report anything that might cast a shadow on the Times' reputation. We understand that Dr. Soon-Shiong has a role in shaping the tone and direction of the editorial board and opinion section, but we are still bound by the core values and ethics of journalism, including a duty to be transparent and act in the service of the public, the memo said. We believe we have an obligation to report these under the ethics policy, which states that the primary goal always should be to protect the Times' integrity. Most notably, the staffer said in the memo that Soon-Shiong has required the newspaper's editorial board to outright, I got to do the thing, I didn't unlock my thing. Anyways, so that's where it goes. Just they have to report, when they report, to outright report something that is positive, I would imagine, or that goes against what they were saying. Opinion staffers notified the executives that they have to present side by side with another opinion piece representing the opposing view of that not so positive opinion piece. Wow.
That's a fail for journalism. And it's unfortunate because people who may still want to be entering this field are coming into something very different than what it was intended to be. And if we do not have a vehicle to just direct report misinformation and falsehoods without having to put it next to somebody else who's just lying, because that's what it would have to be. You know, if you say my shirt is blue, and the only way you can say my shirt is blue is if you find somebody who says, "Nuh-uh, it was red," that's not true, then you're forcing your organization to decrease its own integrity in order to have so-called balance. Some things are not balanced. It just is what it is.
Wow. Okay. So on the other note, let's discuss now what we have here as it relates to other media strategies, okay, or other issues in the media. Let's put this up. This is Donald Trump at a press conference yesterday talking about pollster Ann Selzer.
Others, I have a few others that I'm doing. I'm going to, as an example, I'm doing this not because I want to. I'm doing this because I feel I have an obligation to. I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper, which had a very, very good pollster who got me right all the time. And then just before the election, she said I was going to lose by 3 or 4 points, and it became the biggest story all over the world because I was going to win Iowa by 20 points. The farmers loved me, and I loved the farmers. And it was interesting the way she did it. She brought it down 2 weeks before. She said I was going to only win by 4. That was a big story. But that was good because she brought it down from like 22 points to 4 or whatever the number was. Way up. Way up, an easy win. We never even thought to go there. I respect them, I love them, and they understand there's no reason to go there because she brought it.
So people are going to be afraid to do their jobs because they're going to be worried that Donald Trump is going to sue them. And what should companies do about that? The folks who own the media companies or the polling companies or whatever, are they just going to be, do they just have to acquiesce? Acquiesce?
Anybody can sue for anything. You got $75 and a way to get to the courthouse, you can get your lawsuit. I mean, you can't be, you cannot be litigation proof. You can be judgment proof through your actions. You can make it harder for litigation to proceed, but being 100% insured, inoculated against a lawsuit is in this country a functional impossibility. Anybody can do it. You got the filing fee, you put some scratches on the paper that are legible, you can sue. So how far your lawsuit goes is a completely different thing. This lawsuit that he's talking about is back in his frivolous lane, completely lacking in merit. Now, if you want to talk for a minute about the polls and the pollsters and how hideously flawed and wrong they continue to be, that's a whole other conversation. Nobody is saying that she got it right, okay? And I don't
Even
think
she's admitting that she got it wrong, obviously, right? I mean, I think she said she was retiring.
Yes,
you know,
she put herself out the game.
Monique,
So,
I want to play one more thing before I think this will go into what you're saying. Let me just play one more thing, and this is about newspapers. Here it is.
I want to expand on the defamation lawsuits. Could you see moving that to other people with individual platforms, social media influencers, people that...
Or newspapers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I think you have to do it because they're very dishonest. We need a great media. We need a fair media. We need, it's very important. And we need borders. We need walls, but we need borders and we need fair elections.
Okay, and just that last sentence that that last part that I was reading about Oliver Darcy in the status, it says, most notably, the staffer said in a memo that Soon-Shiong has requested the newspaper editorial board outright, quote here, take a break from writing about Trump, a move that would prevent the body from weighing in on the president-elect as he appoints extremists to key government posts, wades into foreign policy, teases mass deportations, floats upending vaccine requirements for children, issues threats to the news media, and more. Take it away.
yeah, if you are speaking publicly and utilizing a platform to do so, understand that the way digital media now, okay, other use of digital is set up now is such that anything could be viral at any moment. Like you could go from posting something silly on TikTok to it having 1 million views. That is a function of the world we live in now. But that exposure comes with risk. So when you are saying things about people who then may take exception to what you are saying, you need to understand the litigation risk, the risk to your financial, the risk to your own finances, the risk to your employment. You don't just go on, whether you're in news or not, and say what you want to say and not expect there to be consequences for it. Listen, Fox had to pay millions of dollars for peddling falsehoods.
And hundreds of millions of dollars, right? For the Dominion? Yeah.
Yes, for peddling falsehoods. And they should have, right? And so we can't just say, oh, bad Fox, but oh, sweet ABC. Oh, terrible CNN, but we love you, MSNBC. Great job, Don. Get rid of Monique. It's all of us. And the fact that he said influencers, newspapers, he is trying to make people afraid to speak. I am saying, don't you dare, because our democracy is on the line. But when you speak, be sure you know what you're saying and have basis to justify the words that are coming out of your mouth. And if you're quoting other sources and it's not your own stuff, then you better say they said it. Don't make it sound like it's yours if you're not sure of it, which also is my last point on this soapbox, Don. We've got smaller media organizations that are regurgitating stories. They're doing lazy journalism. They're putting
Always.
and then the story that they are republishing has inaccuracies. Cut it out, guys.
Here's what I want to ask you in all of this. And people are going to find this shocking and surprising, but as a public figure, I do believe, and it's journalists may have a different feeling about this, but what New York Times versus Sullivan, right? Which sort of reconfirmed the freedom of speech in the Constitution. I believe that we should go back and take a look at it, because I think it offers cover for people who have ill intent, because the bar is so high for defamation, for slander, for libel, for public folks, that people will just write or say whatever they want to about us, and they are with impunity. And they're never going to sue, and they're not going to respond because it gives it oxygen. So I think we need to go back and actually relook at it, take another look at that. And in this digital age where someone who is sitting in a basement can make up a lie that then is picked up by a blog, that then is picked up by a website, that then is picked up by a podcast, and then gets picked up by whatever, and then millions upon millions of people can read it and believe that it is true. And it used to not be that way. You had to have certain standards. You had to jump through hoops in order to get something and publish something. We're not there anymore, Monique.
We're not there anymore. And the kind of in the original intent of what the premise that case stands for is that if you put yourself in the public square, so to speak, that was what they would have said back then. I think that's actually in the case. If you put yourself in the public square, then you are opening yourself up to a certain amount of exposure. But that exposure is so much more now, to your point, than it was then. And that's why cases like when Prince Harry insisted upon suing the British tabloids, it was so important, even though people called it folly and he had to spend so much money to get it done. It was important because people have to stand up against the falsehoods that are peddled, and frankly, the extortion that is underlying a lot of these stories, because there's always this opportunity to give different kind of information. There's a whole scheme that is involved with the way that tabloid part of the so-called press runs itself. So I think it's important to stand up against it. I know you've talked about on your show, I didn't get to watch it, but I know you've talked about these allegations that came out against Jay-Z. Let me say it, these false allegations, these unsupported allegations that are now being proven to be like not based in anything that could be factual, and a lawyer being willing to file a case with it, and the reputational harm that comes just from the immediate finger pointing. There's harm that comes immediately in this day and age, because you'll have real attorneys who will be like, oh, and another man falls at the hands of the Me Too movement. Oh, and this will lead to more and more people being empowered to come forward. And we have all these things and all these things. And I'm thinking, facts, guys, we have to wait. And I know you said that. We have to wait until there's some measure of proof, but that is not the way this world works right now, Don. So I don't think we need to go back and look at the case as much as it is we need people who are in celebrity or in the public light to be serious about defending their reputations and kind of have the litigation dollars, have the funding.
But Monique, I don't think it should be torn up. I think maybe there should be some sort of amendment. So we need to go as it relates to social media or digital media. because things can be spread so quickly. I really do think that we should look at it, not to get rid of it, tear it up, so to speak, but perhaps there should be some sort of amendment, because when that happened, it's the same as with the Second Amendment. Second Amendment, was muskets, right? And now we've got guns that can pew pew whatever, people that can get rid of people, multiple people in seconds, right? Can kill masses. And now we have, you can spread information, disinformation, false information, lies about people within seconds, with the potential of not only millions of people seeing it, but billions of people seeing it and also believing it.
Right. And so you are protected from hate speech. So the only two ways that there could be a real correction would be additional legislation. And there is legislation that protects from certain types of speech that isn't considered free speech if it's hateful. So there is already that, but it would take a test balloon. It would take a case, because somebody would have to stand against their being defamed. They'd have to sue. They'd have to take the case up and up and up. And these arguments that you're raising about the nuance of the digital age, of the new media age, would have to be decided by the courts. And perhaps this is the right environment for it, since this court is always willing to do anything that the soon-to-be president would be interested in. So maybe we'd be using that to our own advantage.
Monique, this is great. I love your analysis. I told you some people would be like, wait, what? She's defending? Oh my gosh. And we got it out. I think people understood what you were saying, and they get the nuances of this. And it's not, maybe they just still don't agree. I still believe that the reputational damage, who knows if they'd gone to court. I'm not an attorney, but I think that the time that we're in now, the administration that we're going in for the next 4 years, how they're going after journalists, I would have hoped that ABC would have taken a stand and tried to defend their talent. But that's probably because I come from a news background and I've sort of been in that situation before, not to that level, but people can twist things or what have you. We knew the intent of what he was saying. And I think there was enough explanation in there for me to understand. I don't believe that there was reputational damage there. I just don't. So anyways, that's me. Hard facts. Thanks, Monique, says Curry Favor. I agree 100%. Monique, I'll give you the last word here.
Don, I just want to thank you for what you're doing. As I've said, I love Free Don. You're like the Friedman version. I love this show. I've enjoyed getting to see some of the comments from the people who are viewing and following. I saw people who were buying memberships for other people. So I just want to say I'm thankful that you're out here doing what you're doing, and it could never be more important than now.
Oh, Monique, thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Look, it is, we outside now, but it's hard out here in these here streets, but we're going to keep going, right? And I don't think anyone should be sad about where we are, about what happened. I think we need to fight. I think people are going to say, well, you need to move over to the other side and you need to move further to the right, or you should somehow keep trying to normalize. What they're basically saying is, let's normalize Donald Trump and his lies and all of the bullshit that goes along with that administration. Let's normalize, as I call them, his DEI hires or nominees, people who are not qualified to be in those jobs. Let's somehow make these unqualified white men qualified just because they're white men and Donald Trump wants to put them in place. Whereas we know we would not be considered for those positions, even though in many times we are overqualified. Look at where are the black folks in his administration that he's nominated. Yeah, not Health and Human Services, but HUD, the black job, as we always know. Where are all these jobs for the Byron Donalds of the world or the Tim Scotts of the world and all of this, whatever? And why aren't they putting people in place who are qualified? You understand what I'm saying? So why are we normalizing this? I am not about normalizing people. I'm not about acquiescing. I'm not about trying to get access to Donald Trump. Even when I was in a position to interview him, I didn't care about having access to him. He invited a bunch of people to the White House after he won the first time, all the news anchors, the White House or Trump Tower, I forget. And I was like, no, I'm not going to that shit. Why am I going to do that? I've been sitting here talking, telling the truth about him. And now I'm going to go and kiss the ring at the Trump Tower or the White House or wherever it is. I'm not going to do it. I'll put in a request for an interview. And if he wants to come on and talk about it, I'll do it. So, I thank you for your words. And I wish other folks would stand up, right? I wish other folks would stand up like you do. But we'll see if journalists are going to be strong or not. I do not have the most confidence in it, but Some will, some won't. Monique,
Thank you, Don.
you're the best. I'll see you soon.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, everybody. So that was Monique Pressley. She's always, always, always great. We thank her for sharing her expertise here. Some of you have been asking, someone said, and I'm going to bring Nikki in as well. Some folks are asking, where's the membership link? Because we have memberships up and folks are taking advantage, and those comments get prioritized on the comments. And you know, these shows are for you. I do the live shows. Look, I could make my life a lot easier, just do tape shows, not have to interact with you guys, but I do it for you because I know you want to have a voice and I know that you have lots of questions and you want your comments up on the screen. You want to have your own platform. You want your voices heard. And this is a place where you can go to do that. So we have memberships and you can go onto the YouTube, and it will tell you, you can buy memberships for folks. You can buy memberships for yourself. It's not as easy on some platforms. I believe it's an iPhone. It's tough. So that's why we always say, whatever platform you're on, support us. Subscribe to the content there. If you're on TikTok as well, subscribe to the content there. Make sure you smash the screen for hearts because it pushes the algorithm and it makes more people aware of our conversations, and they too can become involved. We don't ask for gifts at all. If you want to do that, that's your business. Folks do it. They send galaxies. They do all kinds of things. And we appreciate it. And that is done out of the goodness of your heart. Okay. So that said, Nikki, are you there? Nikki. Yes, Producer Nikki. So explain, because folks are asking. And by the way, thank you very much, Allison Kinsey, for your generous support. Also, thank you all the folks who are there. There are people, I think Beth Collier and others, who are gifting memberships. Naj, welcome to the Lemonation, has now become a member. Can you explain to folks, because I think people are concerned about not being able to find the membership button. And I have to remind you guys, we had a show yesterday where our Legends members were able to come onto the screen, zoom in, and we had a couple of folks up. And so make sure that it depends on the level that you are on, that you can actually become part of the show and beyond, just like Monique. Go on, Nikki, what say you?
Yeah. Okay. So first, let's address where people can find the membership.
And we can't see you. You don't want folks to see you this early in the morning. Is that what's going on?
Well, I'm not in my apartment, so I'm visiting my mom, so it's a little messy.
Go on.
So first, you can find the link below the video. It should say join. You can also go to Don's channel page. It'll say join. If you are on an iPhone, I know that it doesn't always show the join link, and that is frustrating, and I'm sorry, but that is a YouTube problem. But I did, as Don, I pinned the link in the chat. So if you go to the top of the chat, you should be able to see the link that you can click on, and that should take you to the memberships to join. I see some people asking how they can target a gift, how they can send a gift membership to one person. I actually have seen this question the past few days, so I reached out to YouTube, and unfortunately, they do not have the ability to do that. They said the only way that they do gift memberships is you can click on that little money sign and gift, but the gifts are dispersed based on engagement with Don's channel. So YouTube will automatically send it to people that are engaging often with the videos. I did ask them to add it to their product list. So they are going to talk to people about potentially making that a thing. And I will keep you updated when it becomes available. For our members, yes, as Don mentioned, if people join the 3rd tier Lemon Legends, when we do our occasional Lemon Live, allowing people to call in on a Zoom call and be a part of the show. So that's a great perk. I know that's a little bit high. So we also have some other options. We have the Lemon Heads, which is our mid-tier membership, and Lemon Heads will be getting occasional live shows for just members only. And actually, we are planning on doing one of those tonight. So stay tuned, everyone. After your 5 o'clock drop, we will have our members only live show. And then, of course, we also have our Lemon Nation membership tier, where people can get priority comments. So we're prioritizing comments from our members to be shown on the screen to get responses. We also do have members only posts that we'll be doing, members only behind the scenes content that people can see. So plenty to join for. And please, if people have questions about the memberships, put them in the chat. I really do try to keep up.
All right, Nikki.
Sorry.
You know, I hate that. I wish that I wish that I had gazillions and gazillions of dollars where I could, where we could keep going and I didn't have to do that, because I just want people to have the information. I love just sitting here and talk to you. Okay. I like free Don, says Donna W. I like it as well, but I want to continue to be able to bring you content. And so that's the way that we can do it. We are truly, truly, truly independent media, which means no corporate, whatever. Okay. And so let's go. I want to go. Thank you very much, producer Nikki. With that said, I want to go to the comments. I'm going to go to some of the comments that are on the YouTube. I'm going to go to the comments. I wish I could get to some of the comments. Nikki, if you guys can put the comments up on other things like Facebook and whatever that I cannot get to. And if we are still up on Instagram, I understand there's a limited amount of time that Instagram will go live. But I'm going to read some of the TikTok comments. I'm going to talk to some of the folks through the comments, and I'm going to read some of the YouTube comments. So I was looking for the elimination level, says Allison Kinsey. The pores be doomed. Nope, that's not true. Where's the link, says Deb Davis. We just explained that to you. Okay. So Bobby, moderator Bobby is working hard in the TikTok. This is the most professional production on TikTok, bar none. Thank you, Yank702. I appreciate it. That's because you're watching Yank, our live stream feed that's coming to you from the tube. This says something about gifting. I don't understand why gifting suspended. We're not asking for gifts. Why is that happening, Nikki? I don't understand, because we're not asking for gifts. That is on YouTube. Did you get another alert or no?
Yes, I did. I filed an appeal.
What the hell? I don't know what's going on, because we're not asking for anything. Okay. So not sure how, because we're not even asking for that unless someone is doing there's some weird stuff going on. Too Sassy for YouTube says Don Lemon is the same as Sharpton. I don't know how I'm the same as Sharpton. I'm not a civil rights activist. I'm a journalist that likes to report the truth. Al Sharpton is Al Sharpton. So that just shows your bias. And I believe your racism by thinking that all Black people who are in media and who actually point out the injustices in our society has somehow become a civil rights activist. Do you believe that folks who are on the right or are akin to some sort of activist on the right? So anyway, there you go. Thank you, the Republicans. We have a voice now. You too. Thank the Republicans, says Shona Tuiz. Great. I'm glad Republicans have a voice. I like for everybody to have a voice. Don, thank you for reporting the truth, says Janelle. This is all I'm reading from TikTok. These are the folks that are on TikTok. And again, we are live on that platform. Love the new way of getting information. Agree. Most professional, says Haley Land. Thank you. Folks don't understand that this is a new way. This is where media is going. If you look at everything that's happening in corporate media, you understand why people are so upset about corporate media, because a lot of people just don't trust it. They're not sure where the influence from the top begins and where it ends. Sunny Day says Don is a race baiter. Yeah, well, Sunny, I'm not a race baiter. I point out the true things from race. And Sunny Days, you should understand what happened as we're talking about corporate media and why people are leaving or have been let go from corporate media is because they don't want to go along with the system. They don't want to have to lie. They don't want to have to pull their punches. So to many people who have been forced to leave or are leaving corporate media, it is a badge of honor to be able to be in an independent space and to have left those organizations because of what is happening. A lot of it is the pull to the right from those organizations to acquiesce to things that are just not true. You always ask for galaxies in previous chats. Yes, that is true. Not as of late. You are the best, period, says Humberto Palmas. Thank you very much. So, Don, you are my best friend, says Garland Neal. Thank you. I appreciate that. Twisted Grace 2.0 says CNN owned by conservatives. No comment on that one. I just say do your research. MSM influence starts with the board of CEOs, says Court. Yep. Too Sassy says, or Irene Strong says to Sue Sassy, for you two, you just don't want the truth to be told. So I love that people are in the comments, in the chats, on TikTok. This is all from TikTok that we're reading. And now let's go. Since this is our channel, we can do whatever we would like. Let's talk to some of the folks now on YouTube. So let's see what you guys are interested in. I can't stop loving your dance short video. You are too cute, says Jackie. Jackie, you're talking about the I love your daughter thing. What do you have to offer? That is my favorite TikTok meme. And I might do one today for you guys. I love your daughter. But what do you have to offer? Nothing, only this. And then I break out in a dance. My favorite. I've been doing that for a long time. You're who I trust, says Catherine Palmera. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Cara. I trust you too because you're here. Maria Mariscola says, history tells us that regimes try to shut down rebellion and resistance, but never truly goes away. Yeah, it'll go away if we allow it to go away. And I think that's all up to you. Susie Q says, I really like Rachel Maddow, but I had to stop watching mainstream news media. A lot of people are feeling that way, Susie Q, and we're going to do something a little bit later on that talks about what's going on with mainstream media. Would you like to see another black male anchor on CNN primetime? Of course, I would like to see black male anchors everywhere. I think that our voice is missing for sure in this whole time that we're in. There aren't many, I don't know of any that are in primetime right now and who are elevated in cable news. It's really sad. That was a position that I held for a long time. I was very proud of it. And the entire time I was there, I was the only one. And now there's no one. That speaks a lot about that industry. Kelly Howard became a member over on YouTube. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. Jay Palmer says, great job, Don, having Monique on for a broader perspective. Yes. And I told you, you may not like it. You may not agree with it. But I'm always going to tell you the truth, as I told you during the election. And also remember when I was out there pounding the pavement and telling people about what was going on across the country. A lot of people were like, hey, my gosh, Don Lemon is doing Man on the Streets. What has happened to his career? And then afterwards, that's why you always have to trust your instincts. And you can't listen to what people say. And you can't listen to the haters. If you watch the content that we put on social media, as we were speaking to people across the country, then you were not shocked or surprised by the outcome of the election. Because there was a lot of Trump, I'm supporting Trump, a lot of people who are part of the electorate that had not been animated before, that Donald Trump animated, especially young college men, especially young white college men who are paying attention to the brosphere in the digital streaming podcasting space, and just everyday folks on the street. You were not surprised because you heard from them. And you heard the support that Donald Trump had. So I am very proud of the work that we did leading up to the election. Folks are being welcomed. I'm so just grateful for you folks who are gifting memberships. Calzone Gal says, I like Jonathan Capehart on MSNBC. Jonathan is a friend. I just saw him on Saturday night. I did not get to talk to him for as long as I would like because we were both getting pulled around in different groups. I love Jonathan Capehart. He's been a friend for a long time, a true professional. He does a great job at the Washington Post. He does a great job on PBS. I think it's Washington Weekly. I'm not sure of the show there. And also on MSNBC on the Sunday show, I believe, or is it the Saturday show? But he does a great job. So Man on the Street was brilliant, says Catherine Palmera. Thank you very much. It was, and I will continue to do that. I like the Man on the Street, says Winky Campbell. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. My friend Joan is texting me comments. Joan, get in these here comments. So the Jack says, Don, what became of Sheriff Clark? I have no idea, but he does not have a role in the administration. That tells you a lot about what happens with Black folks who cozy up to the MAGA movement, Black men especially. Excellent work with the Man on the Street, says Estella W. So Don, continue to keep it real. Wendy did, says Donna W. Thank you very much. Love your lives on YouTube and TikTok. Thank you very much. Okay, so TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and all the platforms that we're live on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart. We love the reach that we have. We are closing in very quickly and very proud. It's going to be a big celebration, guys. Dun, dun, dun. We're closing in on 300,000 members in less than a year, 300,000 subscribers, I should say, in less than a year. That is quite a feat. I think we'll get to it by the end of the day, perhaps. We may get to it by the end of the day. We may get to it by tomorrow. But I want to see how quickly we can get to 300,000 memberships. 300,000. That's a feat. This is new. We started with zero. We started with someone that was we started with a platform that was supposed to help us and that backed out, decided they didn't want to, but we went on, we persevered. We're not going anywhere. We're going to, as my husband says to me, as my family says to me, as all of us, and all of the people who support me say, keep your head down and keep going. You are killing it. And what they mean by that, and what I mean by that, is you guys who are part of the Lemon Nation, you guys who are lemon heads. I credit you for all of that. So for our members tonight, I forget the certain tier. I have a private streaming. Last week, you guys got to come with me in my home. We hung out. You saw my Christmas decorations. I told you about the chandelier that I was hanging, all those things. You got to ask me personal questions about the business, about life, about everything. You'll get to do that again this evening for our 5 o'clock show. We'll have a 5 o'clock show. I think it's for everybody, and then we break off. Is that right, Nikki? And then the last part of the show?
Yes. So there will be a 5 o'clock lemon drop, and then it will lead into the members only live, which is for lemon heads or lemon legends.
All right. And so that's at 5 o'clock, and you get to be a part of that. You can ask me anything. You can go inside. Sometimes I don't even sit in front of this camera. Sometimes I just take my cell phone. I walk around my house and with my dogs, and we just talk so that you can get to be part of. And this is it's not just where I'm sitting here going, oh, I've got to give something to my subscribers. I give you something that's different. It's more personal. And that's the kind of community I'm trying to build here. This show is less formal because it is live. I do it every day at 10, where I'm not sitting here going, let's get right into the news and blah, 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 and right into what we're doing. And then we have this sort of fancy thing that's packaged in a bow. It's different and it's working. And I'm glad that you're here. So I thank you so much. I'm going to see you a little bit later on at 5. Make sure you smash that like button, the thumbs up, the hearts, all of it. And we appreciate it. Okay. So I'll see you soon. Have a great day. We are thrilled to have you as one of our watchers. So thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button as well. And that way you can be notified about all of our new content. There's plenty of it for you. We're live every day at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop more videos at 2 p.m. Eastern and at 5 p.m. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon Nation, of the Lemon community. Members receive access to special community posts, exclusive content, and live shows. So just head right over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.